I'm going to wander around. I'm a born wanderer and fidgeter and scribbler and what have you. So good afternoon, everybody. I hope you enjoyed your Cornish pasties. I've got to say, it's shocking. My wife would be really disgusted. I come from Cornwall. My wife comes from Cornwall. Looking at those, that's not quite right. So hope you can forgive that. So again, the idea behind this session is understanding that there are only 168 hours in the week, that there are this many priorities or things that you might be thinking about doing for 2022 and beyond. So what we want you to come out of this session with is an idea or a strategy of how you might choose to prioritize the enablement activities that you're going to be focused on. Now, what we have is, I'll be using Showpad to show how we would map this. This isn't about selling Showpad, it's about giving you, like I say, those ideas. The way in which we've delivered this sort of program is, it's based on, obviously, the Showpad platform and the things that we deliver and the domain areas that we're focused on. So I hope you forgive us for that. Obviously, that's our domain area. I'll be using them as examples, and we'll go through them. But of course, you might have different priorities, and that's fine. So you just need to think about, okay, how would you slot that in? And hopefully that will become obvious to you. So like I say, I don't think we're selling Showpad to you, although we're quite happy to do that. So you can come and see us afterwards, okay. I'm joined here by Ruskin, who's going to be helping out. And if you have any questions or we can't hear you, he's going to run over with a mic and hassle you, and hopefully add some insight as well. So what we're going to do today then, I've talked about the objectives. It really is about you coming away with an idea of how you might map this out. Afterwards, you can contact us at Showpad. We can share these materials with you so you can use them and say, okay, well, here's a template. Of course, you can contact us and we can use the online tool that we're using as well, and you might choose to use that to prioritize. But it's the concepts that I really want for you to walk away with so you can apply that in your own organizations. As part of that, it's about assessing maturity. So that's the first step in terms of mapping the goals, understanding where you are in the cycle. Then what we'll do is we'll take a look at some of the domain priorities that we obviously prioritize at Showpad, and we prioritize them for ourselves. So you are seeing the things that we would work on as well. And then what we'll do is we'll build a map. It'll just be a demonstration map. I'm going to be asking you for ideas as we build this map. So this is where it becomes more participatory. How do you say that word? It's where you join in, okay? And we'll build something, and you get an idea of how we might actually then start prioritizing, and then we'll just summarize. So I'm going to hand it to you. I'm using Showpad here because that's obviously where all our materials are. And what I wanted to do is, this is an experience where we'll walk people through this kind of exercise to understand what does that journey look like, what are the challenges, and we have this sort of discussion areas that I think are going to be really useful. I'm not going to go into each one of these in detail. I mean, this is not all about presentation, it's about being very practical. And what we'll do is try and position some of the exercises as we go through. Now, one of the first things we want to take a look at is maturity. So, where are you on the map in terms of delivering enablement programs and sharpening the skills of your sales and your revenue teams? So we delivered this map. It's a little North American centric if you look at some of the words here: forming, storming, norming, and performing. If I could do an American accent, you'd hear that coming out there. Nonetheless, don't be put off by that. I still think that the categories and the ideas behind them really are worth thinking about in terms of where you are. Thinking about forming is really for those organizations that know they need to do something. Now, I've been in organizations like that. When I started at a small startup many years ago called Enablement, that's exactly where we were. We didn't have an enablement strategy. We just knew that we needed to make sales teams better. We needed to make our SDRs better. We needed to make our partners and tech sellers better. So we didn't have any particular objectives or milestones that we were monitoring. It was just, okay, well, what can we do to help? And we had lots of people wanting to help us. We had the marketing teams, the product teams. We weren't as mature to have a product marketing team. We kind of rolled our sleeves up and did everything at that time. And the problem is that was always sort of focused on their thought of the market. It was very inward out looking, but still got to start somewhere. So you might consider yourself, okay, this is where we are. Storming is where we're advancing a little bit more. So you might find yourself thinking, okay, well, we know we want to do something. We get this established as a program. Some of the things that sort of jump out to me here are things like content or training assets get organized, managed, and provided on a platform. And it might not be an enablement platform. It might be in Box or Dropbox. That's, I've done that many a time, right? And the focus here is about sort of program metrics. So how many people are training? How often are we doing boot camps? Where are people getting their content from? Are they accessing it? So really starting that journey and sort of thinking about how do we deliver an enablement to our field. Norming, as you'd imagine, is where we normalize things. And so we start thinking about more revenue-oriented KPIs. So, and again, that's what jumps out at me here, win rates, average deal sizes, is where we're thinking, how are we moving the needle? And that's what I want to do, right? That's why I'm in enablement. And that's why I started here at Showpad to help move the needle in terms of performance. So can we close deals quicker? Can we make them bigger? Can we do that more often? Can we have longer lasting relationships with customers? Can we improve the lifetime value of those customers? It's starting at this point where we're normalizing that. So we're trying to orchestrate a lot of the training in a much more coordinated way. We're thinking about the materials that are coming out of our products organization or our product marketing organization. We're thinking about how we apply some of those items and instruct sellers. So one of the things that I always used to find frustrating delivering enablement programs for IBM for business analytics, and I hesitated there because I realized I didn't actually tell you what I did. That's what I used to do before I worked at Showpad. One of the things that used to frustrate me is we'd get things like a Gartner Magic Quadrant or a white paper that would come out and that would go up on the slide. Hey, we've got this piece of collateral, but we're not actually telling people or helping people to use that. So what's the best way to have that conversation? How do you get it in front of customers? How is it going to stimulate conversation or progress an opportunity or close down a competitor or what have you? So that's what I mean when I think about in a coordinated way. We're really sort of normalizing enablement, and it becomes top of mind throughout the organization. And then of course, performing is where it's all guns blazing. We've got a really high-functioning enablement team, and we're not just thinking about sellers. We're thinking about customer success, for example. We're thinking about pre-sales and partners, and thinking about the customer experience. So of course, we're thinking about those revenue metrics, but also trying to use enablement as a way of differentiating ourselves with the experience, because the experience isn't just the product. It's about how people interact with us, with our team. The relevant conversations that we're having, the fact that we're showing an interest, and we seem to understand the values that they're looking for, that kind of thing. So that's an important part. And the reason I bring that up is because it will help you decide, I hope it will help you decide, where you might choose to start. Because we have some broad themes around this. If I just jump back here, when I think about where to focus on today. So if I just jump into here, what we see, and I'm not sure I particularly like these colors, it's the blue bit of the pie chart is where you're seeing the value. And I can see you squinting there. We have this available afterwards as well. But if I think, if I'm just starting out, where am I going to get value? It's going to be around sales content management. It's going to be around sales readiness, where we're making sure that we're coordinating the materials that we have, and that we're educating our field to give the right messages and use the right material and use the right language and so on. Whereas storming, we would absolutely be increasing the value out of those activities, and that's where we might start thinking about sales effectiveness and buyer engagement. So when you're storming, you have more of a choice, and of course that's where you would assess, okay, how well are we doing at sales readiness? Is that going to be a priority? That's obviously where we're leading to in terms of the priority map. Norming, as you'd expect, is where we are now normalizing everything, and again, you'll start looking at, okay, where are the priorities, where I'm going to start? Is it going to be around sales effectiveness? Is it going to be about buyer engagement? And of course, performing is really where you're just trying to fill out the gaps, because you're a great, high-performing team, which is what obviously I hope you all will aspire to be. So for me, thinking about these things, thinking about these stages of the journey, we're mapping them to these enablement domains. So sales content management, sales readiness, effectiveness, and buyer engagement. So the domains that we've kind of mapped out And of course, there's elements within those domains, and that's what we have here. And we kind of broadly categorize them into two halves here. On the left-hand side, you've got preparation. On the right-hand side, you've got execution, and they're just as valid as each other. And we're going to explore more of this as we go along. But again, we can just sort of dive into here a little bit and say, okay, well, are our sellers prepared? Do they have the knowledge and the training to go ahead and operate or talk about that new campaign, that new product, that new service line? Are we able to open up a new office in a new territory, for example, or are we competent in a new industry or domain area that we're sort of focused on? Do we have that consistency across different territories? That was a challenge we faced often, especially in a large organization like IBM, where we're across every geography with different types of sellers. Some people who are specialists, some people who are just quota carriers, some people who are client executives, and frankly, you'd be lucky if they knew how to spell the products you're selling. I mean, that's genuinely there's a challenge there as we try and bridge that gap in terms of consistency. And also in that consistency of, well, again, at IBM, it's the grand themes that IBM might have. How could we pitch our product so it was very familiar for those sellers as well? So it's a natural shoe-in for them to start talking about my product. And obviously on the right-hand side there, it's about that coaching, is understanding, okay, well, what's the execution gap between our best performers and our lower performers? You heard Luba talking about that earlier on today, who used to work with at IBM, by the way, so it was lovely to see her. I don't know if she is now. Oh, there she is. Trying to manage that gap there. So that's what we think about when we think about seller readiness. Continuing the theme of opportunity preparation, I think about sales content management. I mean, a large part of my role in terms of creating programs for a new product would be the coordination of making sure that our products team are delivering the right content, whether it's for our business partners, for our technical teams, for our sellers, like I say, for the client execs, any other supporting material as well. And making sure, again, that it's delivered in a consistent manner, on brand. You wouldn't believe how many times I saw, copyright IBM 2013 on a slide when it's not 2013. When it's 2018 and 19, it's just unbelievable. So managing that content and making sure it's consistent, meeting our brand values, that it's familiar to sellers as well, is really important. So managing content so that it has an impact is absolutely valuable, because we've got people who are working hard to create the collateral and the content and the assets that they think are going to resonate with the market, that they're going to help sell a value proposition and create a vision. And we can use marketing automation to get that in front of people and understand how well that's being driven through our website, for example. But it kind of falls down when, I don't know, Ruskin picks up the phone and he's speaking to you and he sends you something. Now all of a sudden we have no idea whether it's hitting the mark, whether you like it, whether there's any value to that piece of content. We've no idea whether it's engaging, whether it's helped driving the sales process, whether there's actually an impact in the content that's being created. So we've got all these things around, like I say, managing the content and making sure it's up to date, but also just saying, is it effective, and where should we spend our time? I've had that situation before where we remember an evaluation guide. We created a fantastic evaluation guide for IBM Planning Analytics against its competitors. Put that out on our internal site. We weren't using a platform at the time, and lo and behold, a year and a half later, when we started doing interviews with the sellers, and literally 90% of people were not using it. They'd seen it, of course they had, because we announced it, but they didn't know how to use it, when they should use it, the value of using it, and then they forgot that it even exists. And the sad part about it is it was very effective. There were 10% of our field who were using it, and they had just figured it out themselves. I mean, they just were experienced enough to understand, okay, this is having an impact. So shame on us for not understanding that and putting that in front of people. Shame on us not understanding, oh, this is a valuable piece of content and we can replicate that as a best practice in every territory. And I appreciate waffling. I'm not waffling a little bit. I'm getting a little enthusiastic on here because this is supposed to be a workshop, not actually me being a presentation. I just want to recognise that fact. We're going to get to some work in a minute. I'm just going to lay the ground here for the last part here then, which is opportunity execution. So opportunity execution, we sort of break that down into sales effectiveness, as you'd expect, right? So who are the performing sellers? Are they able to engage customers, understand the buyer requirement where they are, present the right material at the right time, identify opportunities for upsell, cross-sell, for broadening the vision, for deepening the relationship. That's going to result in these things like the shorter or more forecastable, more predictable sales lengths, for example, quicker deal velocity, larger deal sizes. That's what we're sort of focused here on the sales effectiveness. Lots of things that will contribute to that one, as you'll see in a moment. And then finally, buyer engagement. So very important when we think about where we are, really performing. We're at the perform stage here. We start thinking about, well, how are we creating an experience, not just content, but an experience that really matches our buyer expectations, so that our sellers are absolutely engaged in lockstep with our customers in terms of where they are in the buying cycle. And I mean that in the buying cycle. It's not the selling cycle. It's whether that person is where they are and whether they're ready to buy for you, whether we reduce their anxiety about buying from us, whether they see the value and want to proceed. So understanding where we are as we go through that, making sure that we're creating messages and having conversations that are effective and relevant to that person at that point in time, that's going to move things forward. So that's I could literally talk all day. We can drill down into these things as well, by the way. So there's a lot more detail around this, and I'm happy to share that with you afterwards as well. The exercise that we would go through then is actually mapping that out. So understanding where we are on the journey, understanding those domains and what might be our priorities depending on where we are in our enablement journey. You might say, okay, well, we might focus on a couple of things. And we built an app, and it's an experience app that we have here in Showpad that allows us to, well, as the name suggests, map out those priorities based on those domains. So, and we would use this. I've got a blank one here. I think it's the blank one called Summit, right? So there we go. Where I might start thinking about, okay, well, what are the priorities and what are the things I want to tackle? So this is where we start thinking about, okay, well, where do we invest our time and our energy for 2022 and beyond? Now, we've got a nice swanky fancy tool here to do it, but you can see it's just a grid with some axes on it, so you could do this on a piece of paper, right? So again, don't focus too much on the categories necessarily, although I'd appreciate if you focus on the nice way that we do this, because we worked hard at building this. But one of the things we would do then is start thinking about placing in some of the challenges we've got here. And again, understanding that sales content management, for example, is a broad topic. So if I click into this one, it's what are the issues for you that you see when you think about this domain area? Now, in our case, we've labeled that sales content management. What are the issues that you think are important to you? I'm going to split this down. We'll do half and half, okay? So I'm going to pick on this half over here. Actually, I'll pick on these three tables first of all. So we'll actually pick. I'm just counting the number of tables we've got here. So table 1, 2, and 3. Okay, I'll start at the front here. If you had to pick one of those, and I know you don't know what's underneath these yet, but just pick one of those as a priority. What would you pick? If you just think, oh, that resonates with me. Anyone on that table can call out. You don't have to have a consensus. We're not going to vote on it, and no one's going to know after this session. Yeah, so we've got sales content management. Okay, so that's a generic placeholder because there might be things we haven't got in our thing. We can place that on there and put notes against it. When I think about negative brand impact, I talked about the 2013 high cost to manage content. That really talks to the effort involved, right? And I'll let you read the rest there. I won't go into more detail because obviously it's a spoiler. Would you pick one? I like that. Thank you. Negative brand impact. So I'm just going to go and pick on this one. And again, this is what I'd encourage you to do, to start thinking about these categories, right? To say, okay, your negative brand impact, is that an issue for us in our organization? Some of you will have that, some of you won't have that. What's driving, what's what are the challenges, what are the anxieties that are driving negative brand impact? So, I mean, the other ways we do this in workshops is we literally just get sticky notes and put them on a wall and collect them together. And there's a real value to that, because some of these challenges here might appear more than one place, as you'll see. Well, you might see, if you pick the right things, you might see that. And so what you'll find, this will help you understand, okay, well, if I solve negative brand impact because it's information that's outdated quickly after publishing, we might see, okay, we solved that there once. Great, that's a win somewhere else, for example. So in this case, I'm just going to add this to the map. It's just going to go in the first available slot. Don't worry about where it goes just now. Next table along, what would you pick? There's no wrong answer here, by the way. I like that one, missed opportunities to engage, absolutely. It's where we think there's a lack of visibility on content usage, sellers don't know what to use and when. That's the story I was telling earlier on, right? So, we put content out there, we send email, we send Slack message, and people just, forget that it's there and don't use it. So I'm gonna add that to the map. So thank you for that. And at the back table, any favorites? Oh, okay. I'm sorry about that. And I'm exactly the same, because if I do that, I can't even see you, so I'm so sorry. Okay, let's think about content not aligned to the buyer journey. Love that one. I genuinely love that one. Not least because it's on the chart, so thank you for picking one. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's we have content, but again, is it aligned to where your customers are in their buying cycle? Is it actually going to help them move that opportunity to the next stage? And does it give your field teams the opportunity to act because they have something to act upon, rather than making something up? And I've seen that a number of times. People don't know what to do next because we're not helping them understand this is what's driving the sales motion. So I'm going to absolutely add that to that one. Thank you. Let's go ahead and we'll come back and we'll do sales readiness. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just going to pick the next three from the front here. I'm still going to pick on you. We've got sales. Oh, okay. I just done the maths here quickly and looked down. This is going to be a really easy one by the time we get to that middle table. Would you like to pick the first one there? Long time to new rep readiness, launching new products, enablement efforts just not focused. What would you want to tackle first? Random acts of enablement. I'd love to be able to relabel that to exactly that. You're absolutely right. Again, it resonates with me. Absolutely. That especially working in a multi-matrix organization where we think we're doing something to help, and then we find out somebody else is doing something to help as well. And it's not focused on the issues that need focus. So that's what we've got here. So enablement efforts are not focused. You don't have visibility into specific competencies. It takes a long time to create those experiences and so on. So I'm going to add that to the map here. This next table here. You're going to pick either sales, long time to new rep readiness. That's onboarding. Yes, I know. Yeah. So you can pick one. But I just want to give you a feeling that you've got some choice in the matter. That's all. Yes, thank you. That was a good choice. And again, what I'm showing you is the themes that we see all the time, and that is obviously a support of our platform. That's obviously why it's in here. But I do see this all the time as well. But there might be others. So that ability to ramp people quickly, especially in a scale-up environment, you're adding new sellers, new customer success team members, new business partners as well. How quickly can we get them being productive? And I wonder what that table in the middle there, I wonder what you're going to choose. And this is one of my favorites too. I realize I'm saying that a lot to all of them. And it is a long time to launch a new product, or it could be a new campaign or a new initiative or what have you. In the latter stages of my time at IBM, I was a product manager. So being able to actually bring all the elements to skill up the various teams across IBM was challenging. Let's why I have no hair. Okay. Sales effectiveness. So I'm just going to start right at the back here. Sales effectiveness. You've got a lot more choice here. Small deal sizes, long cycles, low win rates, large execution gap, between top performers and lower performers. The predictability of, forecasting where a deal's going to close, or just a lack of continuous improvement. That the culture of coaching is how I like to think of that. What would you like to pick there at the back? Any one of them. Thank you. Yeah, and I always think of this as like I say, it's a culture of coaching is a phrase I often use. It's that ability to enable managers to do the job of effectively identifying the gaps and understand, how they can improve in performance, whether it's soft skills, whether it's product skills, whether it's, okay, there are gaps in the tools and processes that we have. So absolutely. We'll come around to the back end table there. We've got a few left there. Can you read them still? No. How about I give you a large execution gap? I'm pleased about that. That's just the first one I saw. So you're absolutely right. So again, we look at this, and I'm going to add this to the map here. So the table over there, between the three of you. I know what I would choose. Well, I would choose that because I came from a planning, budgeting, and forecasting background, so that's exactly why I would choose that. So again, it's understanding where are we actually at in the cycle. Do we understand the engagement with the customers, and do we have those signals that they're ready to buy, and are we able to act on that? Because if we don't understand that engagement, then again, we really aren't going to have a lot of confidence when it comes to forecasting. And then the last thing here, and I'm trying not to shortchange you on these last two tables here. When we think about buyer engagement, is it buyer indecision, low cycle win rates, or a bad buyer experience? Julie, I'm going to start with you. Indecision. Are you sure? Did you see what I did there? It's terrible. You're absolutely right. And then finally, at that last table here, I don't want to break down to each one of these, but just pick one. Luba, we're all looking at you. Yes, thank you. That's what I want to. I want to shorten the cycles. I want to sell more quickly, and I want to win more often. Who doesn't want that? Okay, and it's interesting. We saw that earlier on, but this is now in the context of buyer engagement. And are we again communicating value? Are we, giving that experience that helps reduce the customer's anxiety about the choices that they're going to have to make when they decide to buy from you? So there we go. We've gone through an exercise of mapping this out on this lovely fancy technology. As I said, you could do this with sticky notes on a board, and you can see it's just placed it wherever, right? It's gone from left to right, so there's no particular order. Now, for me, the next step is thinking, where do you start? If it's just a handful of you, which one of those initiatives is going to be more important? Now, off the bat, it might be obvious for you. You might have some key outliers there for you. You don't have as many things on here. And if you've gone through that sort of journey map, it might be more clustered around one thing like buyer engagement or sales content management, for example. So, and then there'll be a lot of similarities where you solve a problem in one area, it solves it for another area. But really, for me, the power in this in terms of prioritizing is thinking about the two axes here on the top, but you think about the impact of done well. Obviously, the further to the right it is, the more impactful it's going to be. So what I'd be doing is I'd be dragging these down here, just to give me some space here. I'd be thinking, what do I want to move over here in terms of the impact it will do well, if we do well. So I'm just going to go ahead and pick some things here. Long cycles. I'm going to say, well, I'm just going to put it at the top there for now. For me, that's going to be the number one thing that I want to focus on. That's what's driving that's what's keeping me awake, and these are initiatives that I want to work on. Next thing I might think about then is, okay, anyone shout out another thing here so I don't have to choose, because I don't want to leave the audience here. Enablement efforts. Okay, so I might go there. Where would you want to put that? Above? Below? That's it there. Okay, so you can see we're putting that. over here, we think there's going to be a huge impact on that one. And any others? Come on. Missed opportunities to engage. I just need to find that. Yeah, it's at the top there, missed. Thank you. Would you say it's here or further along? Further along, okay. So you can see what I'm doing is I'm thinking about these are the impacts, because I'm all about the outcome. Right? So where is I'm going to get the most outcome? But I do have to recognize that some things will be harder than others to implement. And so that's where the other area comes here. And I think it depends on your roadmap of when you want to deliver stuff. The way in which we've ordered this here, for example, is that ability to execute is low or high. So then, meaning, if I am already doing well at something, and I've got a program or initiative in place, let's say that was missed opportunities to engage, I would maybe rank that lower here, for example. If I know that there's a big gap and our ability to execute on enablement efforts is higher, I'll just swap that over and it will swap it over for me automatically. So quite quickly we start moving things around and we have a conversation with our stakeholders, and I'm just imagining that we're having that conversation with our stakeholders right now, where we start mapping out things, and this might be over a number of virtual calls. It might be that we end up losing some stuff to say, actually, that isn't important. I don't want to do that. I'm going to go ahead and delete that from the map. It's not a priority for 2022. Go on, let's get rid of that. Having those conversations is important because it does help you understand from the point of the business, what are they focused on? So, and I think there's a theme you're going to be hearing later on in the next talk in 6 minutes and 55 seconds. We want to deliver great enablement programs, but that can't come from inside out. You have to involve the stakeholders to understand where do we think we're going to get buy-in, because they believe there's going to be an impact and we can move the needle for them. So doing this exercise is one part of that. Using this then to say, okay, well, let's have a conversation with the stakeholders, with our sales management, our sales leaders, our customer success leaders, the product management team, the product management marketing team, I should say, to understand, okay, well, do you align with these? Do you agree with these? This is something that we can agree on. That's going to help you understand, okay, well, this is where I'm going to focus my opportunity. And one of the ways we do that, just a little sales plug here, is obviously we can share that internally. We can create PDFs, so we can create that conversation around that. And for me, this should be a living document. It should be something we come back to once we've done that first initiative, for example, and say, hey, have our priorities changed? It might have done. The market conditions might change. It might be a new product. You might have experienced problems within that initiative. So either you set a time frame, like, okay, well, in 9 weeks, we'll go ahead and revisit this, or indeed, it's at the end of the initiative. You come back to this and you just iterate and iterate and iterate, and you just keep closing that circle, because you're going to find at some point we solve this problem and it would end up down here, and then we make another acquisition, we buy another distributor, we launch another product, and suddenly now it becomes a priority again. Does that make sense? Cool. Okay, 5 minutes to go. Any questions or comments or ideas or concerns or anything you want to share with me? You don't have to.
Drive those results. It's just that's how you have to do it right now. And if you take that, this is our process, and you don't challenge it in a positive way, and you implement it in new tech, no matter how good the new tech is, you're still going to have exactly the same problem. It might be faster, it might look nicer, but you're still going to experience exactly the same challenges. So really looking at it with a fresh pair of eyes, and I kind of always, we talk about it, so I always ask 3 questions when I'm with stakeholders. And the first one is, what do you like about what you use today? It's really important, because actually, well, sometimes people just get this absolutely nothing. I hate it. But actually, what you will find is people tell you things that they find comfortable, that they like using. It's helpful to them. If you remove that when you implement new technology and you don't have something that's similar, you might cause some issues with the way that they do their role. So you need to investigate and find out what impact that's having on them to be able to successfully do their role. The second question is what you dislike about it, and that is a very long list, right? But the good thing about that is that's all your pain points, because these are all the things that I find really difficult to do. So these are all the things that we can start to kind of put in here and look at how they prioritize from an end user perspective to the strategy that you're trying to achieve as an organization. And the final question, which is random, but gets you probably the biggest pain point, and some people are more forthcoming than others in these sessions. But I always ask people, if you could press a button and it would do one thing, what would that one thing be? The end, what would it be? And it really gets people to clarify and think about what's the most important thing. And out of that, you'll get the biggest challenge that individual has, guaranteed. And then you can start to look at how far is the gap between our current process and to the utopia of what we've listed down here, all the things that they've decided, are actually things that they would probably want. And then look to see how you can implement that process, then utilize the technology to enable that process, not the other way around.
I said at the outset, this is a tool that we use. We genuinely use this because it helps us get that clarity on where we should be starting with our customers on their journey. We use this with customers. I use this with prospects. Certainly if they're not quite sure where they want to begin, and that happens more often than you might think. If you want more details on that, we're called Showpad, so I don't think I have to remind you of that. So you can just either reach out to some of the guys here, come to our website. We do have tools. Well, we have the tools, obviously. We can walk you through those, but even if you just want to do this on your own and get to that 67% by yourself, okay, along the journey, we can send you some content and details around that. So do feel free to reach out. That will help you understand how you might go and take these techniques to workshop out your priorities going forward. With that, I'm going to say thank you very much.